Do you have any folks that you know that have been on that replacement drug or any replacement drug for a long period of time and that are unable to get off?
Yes.
And what is the quality of their life like just based on your perspective and you knowing them?
The people I've talked to about it that are still on it seem to be okay, but they're still dependent on something.
Yeah.
And I know when they are like, some of them are trying to wean themselves off of it and they still go through the sweats and the body aches and they still, they're trying, but
Yeah.
I tried with fentanyl too. It didn't work.
Thanks so much, Randy, for coming in on your lunch break today. So normally what I have folks do is introduce themselves and say what town and state we're in,
So I'm Randy, last name
if you want.
Wahlberg, from Phoenix, Arizona.
Yeah. Well, I'm grateful to get the opportunity to meet you, and thank you so much for sharing with me just the stuff that you have so far. And so, did you grow up here in Phoenix?
Pretty much, yeah. I moved here when I was 10.
Okay. And then, if you don't mind me aging you, how old are you now?
53.
Okay, so we're roughly the same age. And so we're here at Victory Recovery Center, right? Is that the name of this
Yeah.
place? So yeah, and my bad, Brock. So Victory Recovery Centers, yeah. So this is an outpatient treatment center in Phoenix, Arizona. So how are you connected with Victory Recovery Centers?
Actually, my son, I don't know if he knows Brock or Max, but he connected me with them through a phone call. And I'd just gotten out of a program in Houston and came here. I was a little hesitant about it. And then I'd just come out of detox, so I started using again and went back to Houston, started using again and wanted to get help again. And I was calling all over town trying to find a place to get into. And my wife's like, why don't you call Brock? And it was, why didn't I think of that? So I called Brock and came in here and went back to detox to start the program here.
And so this is an outpatient program, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And so in the programs that you have participated in, and just for clarification, we're talking about recovery treatment programs.
Mm-hmm.
So the treatment programs that you have participated in the past, were they inpatient?
Yes.
And that's what you thought you needed?
That's what I thought I needed.
Okay.
They were AA based.
Okay. So how long have you been clean?
110 days.
Right on. That is fantastic. And let me just clarify. So when I say clean, so are you completely substance free?
Yes.
Okay. And so what kind of substances were you using?
Fentanyl.
You were using fentanyl?
I was drinking as well. The first time I went to rehab, like 2 years ago, I stopped drinking. I haven't drinking since.
Yeah.
But then the fentanyl kept coming up.
How long have you been a fentanyl addict?
4 years.
Okay. And so what was it? And let's just talk about your addiction altogether. How long have you been an addict?
Oh, probably since I was 16.
Okay. And so what did that progression look like? First, how did you even start using?
Started smoking weed with my cousin and then started drinking. I was in high school, and I dabbled in other things, cocaine and meth, but I never really cared for those. Mm-hmm. So it was pretty much alcohol and marijuana until I got on pain pills.
Okay. And so did you get on pain pills because of an injury, or how did that happen?
ACL reconstruction. And
what year was that?
That was 95.
Oh.
And obviously I got opiates then.
Yeah.
But then I didn't use again until like 5 or 6 years ago, and I was getting tramadol, weak drug. Mm-hmm. But that's not very strong. And a friend introduced me to fentanyl, which I thought was Percocets.
Oh, interesting. So they looked like Percocets.
Well, I assumed they were. He told me they were. They were blue. I was used to getting orange ones, but I just said, sure, I'll take them.
Yeah.
And then I quickly figured out what they were after that. But by then I was already to the point where I couldn't not take them.
Did they feel like Percocets when you took them?
Yeah, pretty much.
Did they have a milligram stamped on the pill?
It says M30 on them.
Oh, okay.
So M on one side and then 30 on the opposite.
Yeah. Okay. And so were those were pressed pills not created by the pharmaceutical company?
Pressed pills, yeah.
Okay. And so did you have a dependence on the opiates before you started the fentanyl?
Well, I was doing the tramadol, so
Yeah.
because even as weak as that is, if you, like we were talking about before with the other stuff, if I'd run out on a Thursday or a Friday and couldn't get in to see my doctor till Monday, I definitely had withdrawals. Okay. And they weren't fun.
So that makes me think a little bit. So your relationship with narcotics, with opiates specifically, started back in '95. When did you, because I imagine you probably did, when did you start abusing the opiates that were prescribed to you? Or did you just take them as prescribed but end up hooked?
I took them as prescribed for a little while, and then I was taking, instead of one at a time, I went to like 4 at a time.
How long did that take for you to start doing that?
Pretty quick.
Pretty quick.
Yeah.
You liked the effect.
Sure.
And so, and you were working.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And so were you able to, I don't know if cover up's a good way to say it, because I mean, really, you might not have even recognized that this was any kind of abuse. And maybe you did, I don't know. But were you able to hide it pretty well?
I was a sales rep, so there was no.
That's like being a car salesman and being a cokehead. Like it is what it is.
Yeah. Now, when I was using fentanyl, I had gone to driving a commercial vehicle. Oh. But they didn't test for fentanyl at the time. Yeah. And one of my supervisors is who I was getting it from, and he controlled the drug testing. So.
Oh, so you were going to go.
Yeah, I kind of had an out.
Okay. So. Well, on this topic, before I go back to another question, were your drug tests monitored? Did somebody watch you pee?
No.
Oh, so you could pretty much get away with whatever.
And I did that, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so back up a little bit. Were you able to maintain a prescription with your doctor for a long period of time so that you didn't have to do any kind of adverse sort of behaviors to get your drugs?
Oh, yeah. That was a couple of years I had a prescription.
Okay.
And I even had it when I was doing the fentanyl.
Oh, interesting. Doctor kept prescribing it for you that long. Yeah. Oh, interesting. And at a significant rate to at least keep your base high or your base wellness.
Oh, I was getting 120 a month.
Oh, that's quite a bit.
So, yeah.
And how fast were you using those 120?
I'd usually run out about a week or so before.
Yeah. Definitely not selling them to anybody, were you?
No. Oh, no.
So had you found a street connect before the fentanyl, so that you could maintain your your addiction?
Yeah, the guy I worked with.
Yeah. Did you ever do anything outside of the scope of prescribed opiates? I mean, aside from buying other prescription opiates, such as heroin use or anything like that? Okay.
Never use heroin.
And let me ask you this question too, because I think this will be really, really, well, hopefully it's an eye-opener for other people that'll be watching this episode. Did you consider yourself a drug addict?
Not until I got on the fentanyl and couldn't stop.
Okay.
So then I knew I was.
You knew you were a drug addict. Yeah. Especially, and did the association come more with the idea that you were actually on fentanyl or that you were buying your drugs elsewhere?
Both.
No identification, though, on the same level prior to that?
No.
Okay. I appreciate that. And so the reason that I'm asking this question, and I'd be happy to look straight at our viewers, is because often with folks who are prescribed drugs, who are abusing drugs, who are not taking drugs as prescribed, there's usually a disconnect in the recognition of addiction within the person. And so it's really easy, especially for certain socioeconomic statuses, for folks to say, oh yeah, well, that's not me because I have a house, I'm married, I have a car, I've maintained this employment, career position, whatever the case may be, for a period of time. So I really appreciate you being open
looking
about
back
it.
I know I was wrong, but at the time.
Well, hey, we don't know what we don't know, right? And I think that's really, really important, is that we just don't know what we don't know. And so, so when did treatment start coming into the scene for you?
So the guy I was getting him from died.
Yeah.
He had a stroke that I'm sure was
Associated with drug use.
because he was doing a lot more than I was. And so I knew I needed help at that point.
Did it concern you? Were you close to the same age as the guy?
No, he was like 10 years younger than me.
Oh, yeah, that's intimidating.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I knew I needed help, and I tried detoxing at my house on my own.
Yeah.
And
that's from the fentanyl.
that's from the fentanyl.
Okay.
And I went like from, taking one every 2 or 3 hours to I went like 20 some hours without it and got really sick.
And what does that look like? I'm sorry to interrupt, but let's walk through. Okay, so it's been 5 hours since your last dose. How are you feeling?
Sweating, body ache.
Okay. What's going on in your mind?
That I take a pill and it's all okay.
And no smoking, no injecting, just oral.
I was snorting them.
Oh, you were snorting them. Yeah. Okay. So crushing up the pill then. Yeah. Okay. And so now we're 10 hours away from your last pill. What's going on?
I was in bed sick.
Sick.
Same thing, but much worse.
Vomiting, diarrhea?
Not yet.
Okay.
Vomiting maybe, but the diarrhea, no.
Okay.
But
cold sweat, pale, body aching?
Body aching.
Yeah. Any kind of cold symptoms like runny nose, any of those kind of things?
My wife thought I was sick.
Okay. And so now we're 20 hours away from your last pill. What's happening in your mind?
I need to make it stop now.
No. And you become willing to do whatever. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. So, was your wife aware that you were a fentanyl addict at this point? Okay. When did you tell your wife?
The day I went to rehab.
Okay. So it's 20 hours. And so you're laying there and you're willing to do whatever you need to do. So what happened next?
I was trying to call a couple of different people. I had 3 different people I could call and wasn't getting anywhere. And so I left the house and started calling 1-800 numbers because I knew I needed help.
Yeah.
And finally got somebody on the phone that the first thing they didn't ask was insurance.
Yeah.
So I was able to talk to her for a while, and she said she'd get me into place that night.
Yeah.
Put me on a plane, and I was like, I can't get on a plane feeling like this.
Yeah.
And she says, well, can you go get something and even yourself out? And I said, I'm working on it. And then I finally got a hold of somebody. He came and met me by my house. I did one and called her back, and she said, you sound like a totally different person. I'm like, yeah, all the symptoms went away immediately. So she got me into detox, but it took me 2 weeks to tell my wife because I knew that would be a big blow.
Yeah. And how many years had you been hiding it from your wife at this point?
At that point, 2 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I called her up when I finally told them, okay, I'll go today. They got me the plane ticket and Uber, and I called my wife and told her, hey, I got a problem. And she's like, I know, you're drinking too much. And I'm like, no, It's way worse than that.
Yeah.
So I told her what it was and asked her if she wanted to come take me to the airport, and she was like, nope.
Yeah.
So I got on the plane and...
Tough love?
Oh, she was pissed. She was ready to... Divorce me, yeah.
Are you guys still together?
We are now.
Okay, good.
When I came home I went to California, and when I came home from California, I had to move out.
Okay.
So we were separated for a while.
And how did that affect you?
I used.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How were you feeling about it all?
I thought it was done, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And using, I would imagine, took away any thoughts, feelings, or emotions that you probably had.
Absolutely. Yeah. I wasn't worried about it at that point.
So let me ask you this. Knowing, because this is what I'm hearing you say. I knew I had a problem that I didn't want to be trapped in. I knew what the elixir was to help me not feel that way. And even though I didn't want to be in that place, I needed to be in that place. Mm-hmm. How easy do you think it is for an individual to walk away from addiction even though they're done long before they ever stop?
It's hard.
Yeah.
I mean, I went back. I detoxed, 3 times in a year, and then the next year another time.
Yeah.
So in less than a year and a half, 4 times.
And how long were you separated from the drug before you made the made the decision to use again?
Oh, well, detox, and then shortly after I got home, maybe a couple of weeks.
Okay, so a few weeks. Okay.
A few weeks, yeah, not long.
So what's happening in your mind that, you know how terrible it was. You've gotten beyond the place of extreme discomfort. So you kind of have some clarity.
You still don't feel well, though.
You still
It takes a
don't feel well.
long time to feel better.
Yeah. And what does that look like? So on the weeks, following, all of these things, like as you're getting clean. So what's different? Like you're not snapping right back into where you were before you were strung out.
No energy. You still have sweats and body aches and
what about sleep patterns?
no sleep.
No sleep.
Matter of fact, they put you on sleep meds.
Because you can't sleep when you're taking opiates.
So you're on Suboxone.
And you weren't just on fentanyl. You were on the prescribed opiates and the fentanyl.
Yeah, I was taking tramadol and fentanyl.
Yeah.
For that first time. The
Yeah.
other times, no. But the first time, yeah, I was on both.
Yeah.
And alcohol.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, so you had a lot going on.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I really appreciate that because I think that we, I understand and know what an opiate kick is, and, being on different drugs, but I think this is good. You're really close to, your last one. And so I think it's really important for people to understand, which I think is what incentivizes long-term treatment. It's got to incentivize that. And so, okay. So, this is your first time in, almost lost your wife. Is there, and I like to describe things in a certain way, but I'm going to ask you, does it feel like there's something just whispering to you? And you know how to feel better. You know how to feel better.
All 24 hours a day.
It's pinging at you. It's not going to be that bad. It'll be fine.
Yeah.
I'll just do it this way this time.
Or I'll just one more.
Just one more.
One more.
Yeah. It'll get me past this, past this hump.
But that
And
hump is
what happens
a
with
big
that one
hump.
more? So what happens when you finally give in? What happens?
You do the one more and you're like, okay, I can handle this. I can control this.
Yeah.
And a few days later, you go get more and you handled that. So then a few days later, you go get more and then it turns into every day and 10 or 20 a day right over again.
And let me ask you this. How quickly did it progress after the first time?
Oh, really fast.
So you went even deeper.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I went from the first time I was doing about 10 a day. The next time I was 20 a day plus, depending on the day,
Yeah.
So.
Did your environment change at all? So, for example, this is how my conversations go. Like I'll talk and then I'll start thinking about things. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to ask this question. Because it sounds like you had a fairly vanilla addiction, right? You were able to maintain a normal life. You had a wife, a home, and all these kind of things. Doesn't sound like you were hanging around out on the streets at all. Did your environment begin to change as your disease progressed?
No, it pretty much stayed the same. I was
So you
still
just
going
stayed
to
at
work.
home.
Yeah, I was.
So you were an
functioning addict.
independent functioning addict.
Yeah.
You used in secret.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Okay. So fast forward, it progresses. Here we are, more than 100 days ago. What happened? Why are you here clean 100 days without any kind of medical assisted support?
I didn't want to die. I didn't want to lose my wife because the whole thing with her, she finally educated herself and wanted to work with me and help me get better, but didn't want to sit there and watch me die either. And I'd gotten hooked on them again. And I knew I needed to do something different because the 12-step program and the AA thing wasn't working for me. And that's, like I said, when she told me to call Brock to do something different.
And you guys know Brock because?
My son.
Oh, that's right. You said that in the beginning. That's right. And so your kids know that you're an addict.
Yeah.
And how many kids do you have?
I have 3 boys.
Okay. And they're obviously not addicts.
No.
and they want dad back.
Oh, yeah.
So dad listened,
Yeah.
and here you are.
Yeah, and just the chase, the whole thing is... you take the first one and you think it's fun, but none of it's fun.
Yeah. It's a bait and switch.
Oh, yeah.
It is. It's a bait and switch, right? It's this allure. Everything looks shiny on the outside, but once you walk through the door, it's dark, damp, and moldy.
Yeah, when you know you can't stop taking them, it's not a fun place to be.
Yeah. Yeah. There is a different kind of hook with opiates because of what they do to us. And so, how have the last 100 days been? Talk to me about that. Like, so you get clean, so you go to detox, and then what?
I think the difference for me was coming to this program. You have freedom. Like, I had to make the decision every day to get up, to come here, to do the workouts, to do our meetings, and then to plan my day out, without living in that bubble. And so you literally have to make a choice every day instead of somebody making it for you when you're in the bubble of inpatient.
Yeah.
And that made all the difference in the world for me.
Yeah. How rational do you really think the teaching inside of inpatient is? Does it prepare you for success upon release, any of the inpatient treatments you've been in?
For me, it didn't.
Yeah.
The one I went to, and I don't know how the other ones are, but the one I went to, and nothing bad on the place. It works for some people, just didn't work for me.
Yeah.
But they keep telling you you're going to have this burning bush moment as you're going through the 12 steps. Mm-hmm. And I did all the 12 steps, and I never felt that. And so I felt like I was doing something wrong. So I kept trying it and still not getting that feeling. So like I said, I felt like I was doing something wrong. Mm-hmm. And so I would just go back to using.
Yeah.
And even here, for that 100 days, the first 60 days are pretty rough.
Yeah.
And I knew I could just leave here, go get a pill, and everything would be okay. But then I couldn't. I could show up here, but I didn't want to show up here. I didn't want to let Brock down.
Yeah.
I didn't want to let my wife down, myself down. And so every day I made that choice to get up and show up and do what I was supposed to do.
How are you feeling today?
I feel great.
Yeah.
Best I felt in 4 years, yeah.
How long has it? I mean, do you feel like you're out of the water with your residual symptoms?
With the residual symptoms, yeah. I don't
Yeah.
know if you're ever out of the water. I mean, once you've
it's
used,
one day at a
right?
time. Yeah, it's one day at a time. However, but really, I'm talking about the physiological sort of, connection with our long-term drug use. Do you feel like you're feeling
Physically,
better?
I feel the best I've felt in 4 years, yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And so how's it going on? How's it going in your mind?
I don't really think about it unless we're talking about it. But
Yeah.
other than that, I would go to work every day, do my things, spend my time with my family, and it doesn't really come up.
And so you've replaced the things you were doing in the past with new things. What are those new things? And how effective has it been for you to replace the behaviors? What do you do, when you're in a situation and something has come up over the last 100 days?
Sure. Some of the things we learned here, like we do cold plunges.
Oh,
And that's pretty hard.
Yeah.
If you've ever done them.
I have.
And that when you first get in that water, you can't breathe, you can't think, everything shuts down. But learning to do that breathing and calm everything down, that to me was the biggest thing for me.
Yeah.
Because then it's the same with drugs. When I think about drugs, or I have something that would make me think about drugs, I think about that and I do my breathing, and 30 seconds that feeling's passed.
Yeah. I really appreciate you taking the time to share with me some of the details. What are you looking forward to?
10 years down the road and still being clean.
Yeah. And what's your plan for today?
Go back to work.
Yeah. Yeah. And how's everything with your wife and kids?
Great, yeah.
That's awesome.
We've been married 10 years in February, and we're probably better now than we were even before I started using. It's made our relationship stronger going through this. So
I love that. I have a similar testimony with my husband. We've been together for 10 years. I've been clean that entire time. Not that I was sane the entire time, because, I was coming out of my own stuff, but I have a very similar experience. And I was reflecting on that with him the other night. We've went through a whole lot of stuff together because he had relapsed when I had almost 4 years clean. And our life is better today because of the things that we've committed to going through together. And we have a bond that is just unbelievable. And that is something I would never be willing to give up, right? For these frivolous, temporary illusions that we did to ourselves for so long.
and it sucks that we had to go through that to get here, but
Maybe it's going to benefit somebody else someday.
yeah.
So, yeah, I'm really grateful for you. And thank you for being strong. And, really, like, I don't remember. I think we were talking about this a little bit before camera. I just want to talk a little bit more. I want to explore a little bit more before, I let you go back to work. Not, you can do whatever you want, but really, you've made a decision not to use Suboxone or any other replacement drug. How hard was that? How easy would it have been for you to do that? And why did you choose that?
I'd talked to a few people who told me about what it was, and there's a whole addiction with that as well.
Yeah.
And when I went to rehab, the doctors pushed it on me pretty hard.
Yeah.
And I just refused it. I said, I don't want to be on anything. And they told me my chances of getting through this without that are pretty slim.
Did they give you a number on that?
They gave me numbers.
Tell me the numbers. That how highly likely would it be for you to fail in a
I
percentage
think they said
scale?
like 1 out of every 10 people would make it through without that.
And you decided to be that one.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, did you feel like you struggled at all, with a mental sort of combat because the doctors were telling you this? Did you feel at all like the doctors, did you ever question your decision
Oh, all the time.
because you felt like maybe they knew more than you did?
The numbers are daunting, and they're doctors that are telling you that. And when you're thinking about the numbers and then you keep relapsing, I felt all the time that I was maybe making the wrong decision. But I wanted to figure it out without that. And so I just kept trying it without that.
What's your opinion now? Do you have an opinion that the doctors know more than you do?
No.
Do you think that it is possible for any other person to choose to not use it
Yeah.
if they have a support system in place?
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you have any folks that you know that have been on that replacement drug or any replacement drug for a long period of time and that are unable to get off?
Yes.
And what is the quality of their life like, just based on your perspective and you knowing them?
The people I've talked to about it that are still on it seem to be okay, but they're still dependent on something.
Yeah.
And I know when they are like, some of them are trying to wean themselves off of it, and they still go through the sweats and the body aches, and they still, they're trying, but
Yeah.
I tried with fentanyl too. It didn't work.
Yeah. Yeah. I just want to really commend you for that. It's an unpopular path to take, because we trust our medical professionals. I'm one to argue that medical professionals haven't been strung out.
Right.
So how would they know what they can do?
My wife even thought I should take it
Right, because the doctors told her.
because that's what she read. That's what she heard.
Right.
She felt like if I'm going to do this, that's what I need to do to
Yeah.
be clean.
Yeah. Well, and I would argue that, and maybe you agree with this, maybe you don't, the doctors help you get there.
They did.
So
Yeah.
maybe they don't know everything they think they know.
Right.
I really value you. Thank you so much. And we'll let you know when this comes out. And when we do come back, I'd love us to be able to talk again.
Sure.
Because I want to check in and see
Yeah.
how everything's going. Thank you so much, Randy.
Hopefully I'm still
You're going to be. One day at a time.
Yeah. No,
right?
Yeah.
One day
I tell
at a
my
time.
wife that all the time. She tries to load me up with all these different issues going on. I'm like, no.
Look, this is what I can tell you. People ask me interesting questions. They ask me, what was that one thing? I'm like, it was a multitude of things over a long period of time. And I finally got the opportunity to be willing to do whatever it took. Right. And so it wasn't one thing. It was one opportunity when I was arrested. And so, sometimes it takes what it takes. And thank God for those opportunities where, we get that transmission of information that says, I can't do this to myself anymore.
Right.
I was going to say something else and I totally lost it. But, really, at the end of the day, we can do anything that we put our mind to.
Yeah.
If I say I can, I can. If I say I can't, guess what? That's true too. So, I know it was all about one day at a time, right? I know that I have an issue with commitment. So I just focus on putting my head on the pillow clean tonight.
Right.
And when I start to face things that are really hard, sometimes I will do worst case scenario assessments in my mind and say, okay, what am I gonna do to stay clean if this happens? If my kid dies, if my husband relapses, and those are the things that I've done. And I developed the plan. Who am I gonna call? Where am I gonna go? Where am I gonna place myself to enable me not using first? And so I've just developed my life like that. I still live it like that. I don't think that I'm any farther away from my next one as you are. I just think that I have built up enough 100 days to where I can look back and I can say, I'm not willing to give that up for that. And that does not mean that I don't have drug dreams. It doesn't mean that I don't think about, what comes up for me all the time? Drinking. There's this bar that I love in Idaho, and I'm like, and I love singing karaoke. But this is what I can tell you. It is always just an open door for me to do that next one. I personally cannot use any substance successfully, so I just don't. Because I'm not interested in the alternative.
Right.
And so, I've been doing that one day at a time since day one. Day one for me was easy because I was in jail. So, I just really value you. I chose not to go a route of medical assisted treatment because I did not want to be imprisoned anymore.
Right.
And I know that a substance will imprison me. And I believe that our medical staff are well-meaning, but I also think that I would argue that 99% of them have not had substance use issues and don't know what it's like to be imprisoned.
I felt like it was trading one for the other.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I wanted to be done. And so done to me looked like being done.
Free.
Like no Suboxone, no anything.
Free.
Yeah.
Free. And as you equip yourself to navigate the world successfully, no matter where you go, you will be free. And that's what I know. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.